What's up, everyone? We are back for some more Mecha gameplay, starting off on Cape Blanc Observatory once again. And we're going to be playing as Narukami, the stealth sniper striker. And I didn't really talk too much about Narukami in the past betas, and part of that was because I felt like every time I had a really good match with Narukami, it wasn't the most exciting thing to watch, because you kind of just find a nice high ground area, maybe put down some decoys to keep you cloaked the whole match, and you just keep aiming down the sights and shooting. And people leave you alone, and you just have a shooting gallery ahead of you, and it's just a grand old time. But that becomes a lot less common, I feel, as you climb the ranks. People are a lot more aware of Narukami's glass cannon status. They're afraid of the cannon, but they're also aware of the glass, and that's how they can kill you pretty quickly. As we saw right there, less than a minute into the match, all it took was one Panther charge, followed up by a Falcon chasing me down, and I died pretty quickly. And Falcon is going to be one of your toughest enemies to deal with, so you kind of have to hope and pray they're not around. But it's not an unwinnable matchup. You've got tools for slipping around, but that recon kit they have that reveals your cloaking is going to be a pretty big problem. And speaking of the glass part of the glass cannon, you have D-rank defenses in every category except ballistic, which is E-rank. And what does Falcon have? A lot of ballistic damage, which doesn't help. But you are in a race to the bottom for who is the squishiest mech in the game with Falcon. They've also got some pretty bad defenses themselves. But I think Narukami overall is worse, but you have a little bit more HP, which does help. You could see when I got hit by that lance from the Panther, I managed to live with a bit more than just a sliver of HP, which cannot be said for Falcon when they get by that, because they do have a bit less HP, and with a proper melee setup beforehand, they can potentially just straight up die, while Narukami isn't quite that squishy, at least for melee. But since we're not going to be able to just sit around uncontested, because I have a Falcon and other people paying attention to me, we're going to have to be going for a fair amount of unscoped shots. And I think these are pretty underrated by a lot of people. Obviously, the charge shots are the real scary thing that draws everyone's attention. You know, it's like the beacons of Gondor are lit. As soon as one person is hit by a charged sniper shot from Narukami, they are going to probably remember that for the rest of the match, and they're going to keep looking out for you until you're dead, and then maybe they'll forget about you again after you die, but then the next charge shot that hits them, they're immediately going to be like, alright, this Narukami has to die. So you're going to be getting chased a lot, and you're probably not going to be able to sit around and go for those all the time. So that's when you're going to have to go for the unscoped shots, and they do fairly respectable damage. It's not going to be super amazing, but you can add a little bit extra to that with your decoy drones. So you can have two of those down at a single time. They cloak you if you're in a certain range of them, but they also shoot at the same time as you shoot. And their damage is fixed, although I do think they can technically shoot through walls. If you're shooting someone you see but they don't see you, they'll still be able to hit them, but they do have a damage reduction when they shoot through walls. At least that's how it was when I was testing them out in the training range. They do a fixed amount of damage, which is roughly equal to a third of your unscoped shot damage. And if you're firing unscoped shots, they fire on a bit of a delay after you, and if you're firing scoped shots, they fire at the same time. But since they do roughly a third, if you have two of them out at the same time and you're shooting, you're basically doing over a half unscoped shot worth of damage every time you fire one shot. So every two shots, it's basically a little over a third for free. So pretty nice damage. They're often not going to live long because their main job is to be a decoy, so if people are looking for you, they're probably going to hit them first, which usually still better than dying, even though you do like having them around for that damage. But definitely a helpful thing to augment your damage, and if you're not getting focused, it's still worth putting them down just because they give you some extra stuff. And actually with Falcon, going back to our other glass cannon friend, you'll know that if you hit Falcon with a fully charged shot, it does a ton of damage, and two fully charged shots leave Falcon with a sliver of HP. But if you have two clones out, or two decoys out, and you're firing those scope shots, it's actually just two fully charged shots combined with extra damage from the decoys will straight up kill a Falcon. So sometimes you can get lucky early in a match where you'll put down two decoys immediately, hit that first charge shot on the Falcon, maybe before they even realize that there's a Narukami in the match to watch out for, and then if they're not careful with using their evasion while they're coming after you, or if you just go for like a manual shot without waiting for the lock-on, if you're feeling lucky with your aim, or confident with your aim, doesn't have to be luck, then you can potentially just take them out with two shots, and it can be one of the fastest possible kills in a match, and the Falcon will definitely be unhappy that you did that to them. So that's something to keep in mind, and not too likely to happen, since most Falcon players are pretty good at avoiding Narukami's after they've been hit once. But something to remember, just in case you want to try to get a quick kill on Falcon, quicker than usual. But we're once again getting chased down by some people, so I'm just going for these unscoped shots as he runs away. We're able to get an objective play there. You can do a stealth objective stuff a bit like Stellaris. It's not as easy because there's some more obvious signs when you're going to stealth. You're going to have your decoy nearby. If you grapple, you're stuck in one spot, so I guess you could grapple next to the objective and maybe try and do it, but I feel like that's a bit awkward. And the dome, I think it's gone through some variations. It's technically, I don't know the actual name of it, but it's a cloaking drone dome, your third ability. And in the past, it actually functioned as like a shield and a cloaking dome, and it was just a cloaking dome at one point. I think it's back to just being a cloaking thing now. So when it was a shield, sure, it would make you invisible. It was kind of another beacon to let everyone know, here's the Narukami, go after them. Now I think it does a quick flash when it activates, but then it does stay invisible, I think. So that can potentially be your best option for going for a stealth cap, since it doesn't have as much of a telltale sign that you're around like the decoys. But right there, I was able to just throw down a quick decoy and slip up and grab that because the enemy team was distracted otherwise. But yeah, the decoys are going to be your main tool for cloaking most of the time, especially when you're actually trying to get in a position to set up and snipe things, because they do add that extra damage. But I like to use the grapple as more of a panic option, because it has a really short cooldown, and it can stay cloaked for a while, and there's nothing else around that can be interacted with to remove your cloak, like the decoys. And even with the dome, it kind of keeps you in one spot, and if there's an enemy Welkin, since it's considered a drone, I'm pretty sure his flashbang just gets rid of it, so gotta watch out for that too. But the grapple has, I think, only like a 10-second cooldown, and as long as you stay grappled to a spot, you'll stay cloaked for 20 seconds. But if you ever fire a shot, that cloak will go away. I think you can technically cheat on that by if you have the dome on top of you as well, or if you have a decoy nearby, you can stay cloaked while grappled onto something. You'll see some people go for they'll just grapple up to a high ground spot and just go for long range snipes pretty much the whole match. I don't really like to do that, but if you're not getting chased after and you feel like you have good enough sight lines, you can certainly do it. And in my experience, though, people who do that, you can usually kind of figure out where they are because they're not moving, and then you can find spots where they're not going to have a good sight line on you, and then they're going to not be as effective as they could be if they're moving around. But we managed to get the win there, actually getting the MVP with Narukami, which I feel like is fairly uncommon, especially in a match where I was getting chased and died pretty early on there. But we managed to do a pretty good amount of consistent damage and some objectives. So we'll see if we can do the same here on Vigil Imbrium, the moon map. And it's going to be harder to do it here, though, because a bit of a risky move for Narukami to play the objective on key retrieval maps. But we'll see if we ever get a chance. Obviously, I can defend and fight key carriers, but carrying the key myself is going to be a bit of a risky move because of that aforementioned glass status that Narukami has. But I'm going to take this time to also mention the fact that Narukami is actually highly mobile. You might not think it because you don't have like a ton of energy, and obviously a lot of your kit wants you to stay in one spot, but Narukami has the fastest evade speed both on the ground and in the air. Maybe transformed Falcon is faster. I don't know how that's necessarily calculated, but untransformed at least, Narukami's evade is a lot faster, which is part of why you can kind of get up close and go for these unscoped shots on people in combat, because you move around very fast as long as you've got energy to keep doing those boosts and boost around. So if you are able to grab the key and you're not shot and blown up immediately, you can get over to the retrieval point pretty quickly with it. So, or the deposit point with it pretty quickly. So you're still probably one of the worst options, but there are some possible upsides for it. But yeah, this is not a great point for Narukami here. I think in general, these key retrieval maps have some nice areas where Narukami can get high ground and fight. But yeah, the indoor points are not going to be good for you. I probably should have just been going for unscoped shots. I tried to be greedy and go for a scoped-in shot in the corner there, and I wasn't even hitting anything because it's kind of hard to aim when you're scoping in on people directly on top of you. Probably just would have been more consistent if I'd been going for unscoped shots there, but lesson learned. Now that we're respawning, we're probably going to avoid that area if we can, although depending on where the objective goes, we might have to force our way back in there. But the fight is still going on indoors, and I don't want to go back in for now, so I'm going to position up to see if my teammate grabs it, I can kind of cover them from outside on their way to the deposit area, or if an enemy comes out, I can try and snipe them along the way. But we also have B point starting to come up now, since A point has taken forever to get grabbed, and it's still being contested by people indoor. And I see my Welkin fighting for it, so I'm going to come over here and see if I can help. This is going to definitely be a little bit better for me, because I can get some high ground here, actually scope in without being directly in people's faces. We also have our Panther coming in to help as well. This is a good time to mention that I don't have it configured for this match. I didn't have it configured for the last match, even though I didn't really need it there. But there is an option in the settings to set up a key to toggle on and off auto-targeting while in scoped-in mode. So if you're fighting something like a Hurricane or a Tricera, and they're pulling your targeting towards things you don't really want to target, you can use that toggle to turn it off and then just manually aim. As long as you're confident in your ability to aim at things manually, which even if you miss, you're just shooting the Tricera, it might not have mattered anyways, unless your whole team is focusing them. So that's a helpful tool to have. I wish I'd had it set up for this, because it would have been helpful while fighting that Hurricane, but I did set it up after this match was over, because I remembered that was a thing. I think it used to be auto set to like mouse 3 or something in past betas, but now it's unset up by default, so you do have to go in there and do that. It looks like the enemy has finally grabbed A, though, at the same time that we grab B. I'm going to go ahead and burst down enemy Panther there, so our guy can hopefully make it to the point. And it is the Falcon that grabbed it. They're very low. One sniper shot should take them out. I was thinking they would keep rotating around, but, I mean, they were smartly hiding behind it. I probably should have repositioned better, because I could have got them. But now that they're moving around, it's hard to land the shot. But allies do manage to take them out after they get some points on it. But our guy with the key is kind of stuck away from the point. It was actually the Tricera with the key. I thought the Panther grabbed it. Yeah, so he's tanky, but it is hard for him to get to the point, especially if he runs out of energy and he just gets locked down in the melees, which I think is what happened. So we did deny them points from B, but they got 1 or 2 ticks with the A point key, so we are going to be behind now. But C point is another not indoor point for me, so hopefully I can do some things here. We got everyone's favorite Core Pulse Storm going on, so no targeting is happening. Regardless of whether I have the toggleable manual aim, I'm going to be doing it anyways, because I kind of have to, unless we get like a Falcon recon ping that gives us some targeting for a little bit, which I think we do have a Falcon player. They can potentially give us that. Yeah, we actually got some targeting available right now. But cloaking doesn't matter as much when this is going on, but you can see the Falcon still targeting me with his recon kits, so doesn't matter what I do, it's going to be able to focus me for a little bit here, so I'm just trying to break line of sight. That's the big thing with Falcon, and this map's pretty good for it. When they've got the recon kit going, your cloaking isn't going to help at all, so just go back to the classic of break line of sight with source of damage, and that should work out for you pretty well. There's a lot of little areas in the ground you can hide around, a lot of obstacles around these outside points, they're pretty good. But somehow my teammate does actually manage to grab it during all of that. Some focus was turned away, so I'm going to just chill up on this ridge and protect them while they're depositing that key. Stego should be a fairly easy target for me. He's got a lot of HP, but I can just sneak around the shield like you see here. Not much he can do about that. And he's even got his shield facing the wrong way. Go for a fully scoped shot here, finish him off, and that's a nice kill. Well, looks like we may have also only got a partial key deposit, because we're still behind after getting that key there. I'm going to go back to doing some hipfire shots at Falcon. And I'm going to try for... No, miss this shot with no lock on. I'm going to blame the fact that I'm used to things locking on, and I'm not used to sensitivity for actually aiming things. You can call that cope, you can call that skill issue, but that's my excuse for when I'm missing most of my shots. When I don't have the auto lock on aiming for me. But it can be tough. I mean, Falcon's got a small hitbox compared to everyone else. They do move around a lot, so even if you're pretty good with your aim, it's not exactly an easy shot to make. But here, should be pretty easy on the Hurricane. I get one shot, the second one right as he's putting down the shield, so hopefully we can get the finish there. But Welkin shows up, hits me in the back, takes me out. I think it was still worth the damage I got on the key carrier, because they were finished off there, but we did end up going down. So we're going to be back in time for C point again. I'm thankful that it's not going back to A point. C point has been the one place we've gotten points off of so far, so hopefully we can continue that trend. And let's see if I can get a scope shot on the Falcon. Nope, they see me already. But like I said, there's a lot of places to hide out here. Even if I got the recon going, I can chill under these little ledges and hang out, wait for that to go off active time, and then get back over to the fight where I go. Oh, another thing I want to talk about that I don't think I mentioned when I was discussing abilities before is you've got 6 charges for your decoys on Narukami, and they have a 60-second cooldown, which I want to say is the longest cooldown for anything in the game other than Alisna's armor call-in. So you, if you use one, it's going to be a while before you can use it again. And it goes on cooldown if it's destroyed, and it also goes on cooldown if you move out of range. You get the nice voice line that says drone recalled, which, you know, sounds nice. It sounds like, oh, I'm getting refunded my drone. No, it's treated like it died. So you got to be careful about that when you're moving around. If it does get recalled like that, it is going to go on cooldown. But the nice thing is that all of the drones have their own separate cooldown. So you can see right now I'm about to get up to 2, but look at that, the next charge is already halfway through because it's going on a separate cooldown there, so only 30 seconds or so for that one to complete. And you can see what your most recent recharging drone is just based on looking at the skill, how it's filling up, but you can also look on Narukami's body, and it's kind of hard to tell since I'm cloaked here, but the fins, the kind of, I don't know if you want to call it like a dress part of the mech, you can see they're glowing pink, and as that pink fills up, the glow on them and it gets to max, that shows you what the cooldown is for each individual decoy. So you can use that to kind of keep track of when your next decoys are going to be coming up. So since they all have their own separate cooldowns, you don't have to be like super greedy and never use them because they have a 60-second cooldown, but it does mean you maybe don't want to be just dropping decoy after decoy as they're running across the map, because as they're recalled, even if they're not being destroyed, they are going to go on full cooldown and you have to wait a while to get them back. And you're going to be missing out on damage, and you're going to be missing out on probably your most reliable form of cloaking when you don't have any of those. Right here, we're bullying the Stego a little bit. I think that's a pretty terrible matchup for Stego. His frontal shield, on some maps, like at the start of like Cape Blanc Observatory and stuff, he puts down his shield. It might be hard for Narukami to position in any sort of way to get around it. But in general, I can just walk around the shield and snipe him, and there's not a whole lot he can do about that. He can maybe pop his smoke and hide for a little bit, but that's not going to help for long. They did get another A-point key grab, not really surprising there. Got a nice snipe on him, though, as the door opened. Scared him to go down the other way. And a couple hipfire shots combined with that Welkin damage from the box was enough to finish him off. So we still got a bit of a lead, and we're going back to our favorite point, the C point. So we might be able to get the win off of this. This actually might be the last key spawn, I think. We're only 2 minutes left in the match. And C point is the only one that's even on its way to generating. This is going to be the place to be and to fight over it. And I've got a fair amount of decoys ready to go. I'm eyeing that Stego across the map. Do get one shot on him. And to start hip firing away at this Hurricane. Hurricane's disruption around the key point is going to be annoying, so if we can get a quick kill on them here, that would be nice. Trying to put down decoy for extra damage. I see Falcon over there. Someone finishes them off, which is nice, so I don't even have to worry about sniping them. Hurricane's got some of these defensive options active. No one's really on the point, but I am not risking going for the key grab, especially when there's a Welkin around. Looks like he whiffed the box on one of my decoys, though. He's coming for me here. Just break line of sight, so he can't do that melee charge towards me. And then Stellar staying there doing his right-click sword slashes to try and just interrupt people going for the key grab. We got a couple of them in the box with us, but with the box, we are able to get that key grab. I think it's ours. Does our Stellaris have it? Someone's got it, not the Welkin himself. He stayed behind. But they are able to get to the point. Only need, I think, 2 of those ticks on the retrieval to get the win, and we get it. And long match there. A lot of key grabs that weren't able to be converted into any sort of points. But in the end, we were able to get the win thanks to C point. I think we did get every single key grab from C point in order to get the win there. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this Narukami gameplay. I didn't talk much about the comparisons between Aquila. I probably should have talked about that more. I'll say I think Aquila is better than Narukami in most situations. I was actually being pretty harsh on Narukami. I was thinking they were probably bottom 3 in the game because of just how much better Aquila is, but I think there's still some value in playing Narukami. I don't think they're they're just straight up terrible. But I do think most of the time Aquila's just going to be more effective. You have more battlefield presence. You can be harder to kill, even though you don't have the cloaking. You're just harder to chase down. Just have more consistent damage, and that stun can really be helpful too if you're able to coordinate with teammates to bully people with that. So, curious to hear your thoughts. I think Narukami is a bit of a controversial pick because I don't know about you guys, but I hate to go against Narukami because those charge shots really hurt. But I also feel like when they're on my team, I don't always feel their impact. It's not someone I'm necessarily happy to see on either side of the battle. But I think they've got their strengths. And we'll see what everyone else thinks about that as well. But that's it for this time, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, you can also catch me streaming on Twitch. I'll be doing a lot more Mecha Break over there. But until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.